Hey Marvel, if in future projects, you need another actress to play a variant of Kamala Khan. Uh, my name is Nayla Fayaz. I look pretty young. I could do it.
Yeah, you know what? Maybe I am less than because no one looks like me like on screen. And whenever there is someone that looks like me on screen, they're a servant
Um,
and the colonizer.
the Colin Ross.
We love him.
Love Ross. Welcome back, spammers, to another episode of the podcast. We're your hosts, Nyla and Crystal. And today we're talking about representation and also the lack of. We're going to start off, though, with a little bit of a fun topic because last week we both saw the movie Black Panther Wakanda Forever. And if you haven't seen it by now, what are you doing? Go watch it.
No, seriously.
Like immediately.
Also, we want to do a quick disclaimer as well before we get into the episode that we're going to be talking about the lack of representation, and we're not speaking for everyone. We're just speaking for ourselves and our own experiences. So if you have a different experience than us, or if you don't get what we're talking about, that's fine because we're just sharing our own personal stories.
One more thing to add to the disclaimer. We're not trying to offend anyone. We know that representation is different for everyone. So like Crystal said, our own experiences with representation in media.
Mm-hmm. But yes, Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. What did you think?
Yeah, so I thoroughly enjoyed that movie. It was amazing. I really enjoyed the first one. And the first one, I think, is like top 5 Marvel movies of all time for me. I think the messaging behind each movie is well thought out. And I think a big thing in this one was representation. We already had that in the first one, having an all-black cast and all-black, director. I'm pretty sure majority of the staff was also Black. And so having that movie already show so much representation and then adding more representation into this movie was amazing. Recently, I actually saw a video and it talked about how the Talokan, how they're all blue, right? And like that's a thing in the comics, like they are blue. However, Crystal turned on the blue lights. We're here. We're ready.
Yeah, I got my lights, the purple for Wakanda and then the blue for Talokan.
Let's go. But yeah, I saw a video where they were talking about how the Talokan, they're blue. However, Ryan Coogler took out the time to make sure that underwater they're still brown. They're still represented. And that's not how it is in the comics. They're blue underwater. So he specifically said the lack of oxygen is what causes them to be blue, but when they're in the water, they're fine.
Yeah.
And so, Crystal, how did you feel about the representation in this movie?
Oh my gosh, no, it was insane. I mean, like you said, the first Black Panther movie, I mean, that one opened the door for so many people, and I can't even like begin to comprehend how special that must have been for the Black community, because that was insane. I mean, just as a POC, like the way that I felt represented just through Black Panther, and then for Ryan Coogler to come in and like open this door and give us a space to like break barriers, and we have like Mexican actors on screen, and not just Mexican but like indigenous Mexican, like that was just insane. And I watched that entire thing and I was so mesmerized. So it's just so awesome to be able to see that. But the second movie, I mean, it was insane. So good. The entire way through. I mean, 2 hours, 41 minutes, I think.
Yeah, about.
It did not feel like it. It was so good. Hooked the entire time.
The story was there. The characters were there. The comedy was there. How many did you cry?
I cried only on the end credit scene, only because like I do get emotional, but it's hard for me to like cry. And so but the last part, I mean, like the ending credit got me. I was like, yeah, I needed to see that.
Are we doing spoilers? Is this happening?
I think we should.
Now?
Okay, we should.
Spoilers. Again, if you haven't seen it already, what are you doing with your life? Go watch it. Come back and then listen to this.
Yes.
So the end credit scene.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So we see Prince T'Challa come out of nowhere. I mean, I was kind of expecting Nakia to be pregnant because my sister had told me that she saw a theory where people were like, oh, in the trailer, Nakia's looking off into the water, so she's probably pregnant. How they got that from that, I don't know.
I think I kind of figured that out. I don't know how they got it from the trailer, but in
Mm-hmm.
the movie,
Mm-hmm.
Namor's mom also
Uh-huh.
stood in that exact same spot and looked out on the water.
Oh, you know what? I didn't put two and two together. That's
That
actually
was, yeah.
that's pretty cool. Okay. Okay, that makes sense. But
From
then
the
like
trailer, though, I don't know.
yeah, I don't know. Some people are so good.
Mhm.
But yeah, when we got to that like end credit, I turned to my friend Ruby because I went to go watch it with her. I was like, Ruby, this is the part. This is the part. And we're all like so like hugged and we could not stop watching. Like the little boy is so cute and he kind of reminds me of Chadwick Boseman, which is
Mhm.
like even
R.I.P.
better. Yeah, R.I.P. Like I wish it would have like still been around. Like, could you imagine like how much more insane Black Panther would have been with him? Well,
Yeah,
too.
yeah, he made an impact on a lot of people, and it really did. I love how this movie just pays tribute to him and his life.
Oh yeah, like the entire thing too. I've been seeing some things on TikTok where they're like, the license plate for one of the cars has like CB and then his date of birth.
Mhm.
And then there's like an interview where Chadwick says something like to be young, black, and powerful or something like that. I mean, I
Mhm.
don't know if I'm quoting it right, but they quote him in that movie as well on
Yeah.
um
Riri says it,
Ironheart.
right? Yeah.
Yes, Riri. She says that and I was like, wow, like I love all the little Easter eggs. So cool.
Mhm. Riri was my favorite character. I love her. I cannot wait to see her show. Like she's just so
Yes.
funny. I was like, "Well, she's comedy." There was a point where I just looked at her and I was
Hmm.
like, "I miss Tony." It hurt for a second. I was like, "I miss Tony so
Yeah.
much."
It's kind of cool though to be able to see how they like take her character and like
Mhm.
put like you know if she's gonna be her own thing or if she's gonna be like another little Tony Stark or like what's gonna happen.
She's kind of like an extension of Tony.
Okay.
Yeah, because she like has this she's a genius and goes to MIT. Like she's her own person,
Mm-hmm.
but with her suit and all of that stuff, she's like kind of an extension of Tony. But I'm happy about that because having a young black woman in that
Mm-hmm.
spot, that's gonna
Yeah.
be and she's funny. And Tony was
Yeah.
funny. I think that's why I'm like, I miss Tony because he was so funny.
Yeah. Oh my God. No, I love the scene that she did where I think Shuri, she's taking the what is it called? Like the flower.
Heart-shaped herb.
Yes. So she's taking that and then she thinks it doesn't work and she like knocks something out and then Riri goes, "Oh, can I get some of that?" I'm like,
She's so
"Same."
funny. Yeah, she was just hilarious. Even in the that scene of them at MIT with Okoye and Shuri
Mhm.
and Riri, where she's like ready
Yeah.
to throw things at her.
Yes.
Yeah,
Oh my God. No, we
I
love
love
that.
the woman representation also in this movie. I think that was a big thing in the first one as well.
Yeah.
Like the Dora Milaje themselves.
Yeah, badass women.
Hmm.
Yeah, no, I love all of them. My favorite's obviously Okoye.
Hmm.
She is a badass. I
Nakia,
really
Nakia's I'm a big Nakia stan.
me too. She's my Latina queen. Love her.
Have you seen her videos of her with Namor? I forget
Yeah, when
his
they're
name all the
dancing.
time. Hmm.
Yeah, I've seen that. So cool. So cool
They're
to be
so
able to
cute.
see that. Yeah. Love it. With Okoye and Queen Ramonda and how their story kind of ended, you know, with like bad blood kind of and now she doesn't get her justice from it. Like
I
says
think that sets up a good arc for Okoye though.
I cannot even imagine though like the pain that the whole like Marvel community went through though when that did happen because I wasn't a part of like I wasn't into the MCU just then, but can't even imagine how that was.
I cried a lot that day.
Really?
I cried a lot that day.
Mm.
Cause he not even just him in Black Panther, like Chadwick was just a good person all around. He was really caring, he was really
Mm-hmm.
loving. And I mean, again, the fact that he had hid this disease from everyone around him, no one knew.
Mm-hmm.
Just like in the movie, nobody knew, and then he just passed away. It was
Yeah.
very shocking. It hit a lot of people, and then, it hit not even just the Marvel community, but it hit the actors and the directors and all the people who worked on the first Black Panther movie because none of them had any idea about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had recently seen something where someone mentioned how you can kind of tell, like in the Black Panther movie, he was like really buff, but then in some of the Avenger movies, like towards the end of his time in MCU, like you could see
Mhm.
that he was starting to like get thinner.
Mhm. Yeah,
So,
and there was, like, an interview that Ryan Coogler did where he talked about how Chadwick would take longer to rest in between takes during some
mhm,
specific really heavy scenes
mhm,
because he would need to literally recharge physically, even though, say, someone else who is very similar to Chadwick's, like, stature, who's healthy, could keep going,
mhm,
Chadwick needed to take longer breaks. And
mm,
so, even though they didn't know that he was sick, like, they could tell
mm.
something was up, but they didn't
Was
know what.
yeah.
Mhm. It was
Yeah, but
really
he
sad.
yeah, and he was so strong though too, like the way that he continued on, like
Mhm. He pushed
powerful.
through. He
Yeah.
did Black Panther, he did Infinity War, he did Endgame, like, he did all these movies
Mhm.
while he was sick. And plus, outside of MCU, he did a lot too, but
Yeah.
yeah, it was really sad, and I'm really happy that the movie did fully pay tribute to him. Like, this movie
Yeah.
was for him.
Yeah.
And it still adds to the MCU plot, like, how do you check off all the boxes? Ryan Coogler, genius, man.
Insane. Awesome. And thank you for giving us the space to break through on cinema. Like that's
Mhm.
awesome. But to segue over to our talk today about lack of representation, the reason why Tenoch Huerta is such an icon for the Mexican community is, I mean, I actually just recently saw an interview where he was talking about how like most of his career he was never casted to play like an important role, and he actually had a friend who was a casting director, and he like asked him like, hey, you know, why am I only ever getting these types of jobs? And his friend says, well, that's what they're requesting you for. And just for him to be able to go from that to playing like a lead role where he is such an important character was just insane. And I mean, growing up, you know, consuming Mexican media, it was always, you know, whenever you'd see someone of a darker complexion or more of an indigenous appearance, they would be less than characters. They were never like the lead characters. And so growing up, when you're at your most impressionable like stage of life, I mean, you see that and you start to think less of yourself because of that. So, you know, to be able to experience that now where, you know, we can see such a like a cast of just POC, you know, black characters, the indigenous Mexican, to even hear like Yucatan, Mexico on there, like all of that was just so insane. So, really cool to be able to experience that now. But how did you feel growing up and having that lack of representation for you?
Yeah. I also wanted to note that having characters who weren't light-skinned at all,
Mm-hmm.
like, Ramonda was the most light-skinned
Yeah.
in Wakanda, and she's
Yeah.
not even, like, light skin.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that felt really good.
And the colonizer.
The Colin Ross!
We love him.
Love Ross.
He's our favorite colonizer.
He is our favorite colonizer. Well,
Yeah, I mean, there's some other ones in there, but if
we
we're
won't
only
get into
talking,
that
no,
today.
no,
If we're
that's
only
too
talking
much.
about, well, Black
Just Black
Panther.
Panther. Yeah.
But yeah, growing up, I did not feel represented
Mm-hmm.
whatsoever. You know, a lot of it had to do with stereotypes.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of brown characters were very stereotyped in Hollywood and American media. They
Mm-hmm.
were like the nerdy Indian boys who have the thick accents and things like that. And it was like, that's
Mm-hmm.
not who we are. Also in Bollywood,
Mm-hmm.
zero representation, which is insane because you'd
Really?
think, yeah. So in Bollywood specifically, there's obviously different sectors in India, different, like there's Tollywood, which is for the Tamil people. And so there's different medias, and the media that I grew up with, which is Bollywood, every single person, especially women, were very, very light skinned, like white passing.
Mm.
And it was very much so glorified to be light skinned in
Mhm.
just regular life, to the point that there were products being sold and marketed by these actresses
Mhm.
that were titled things like Fair and Lovely.
Yeah.
And it would it's like whitening creams and things like that. And so I never ever felt represented in my,
Mhm.
like, when it came to media.
Yeah, no, it's the same way for us. I mean, growing up, I remember seeing commercials of like people that I would see on TV that were like of a lighter complexion, and they would promote things like skin whitening creams, or there was like they would promote things that had like 0 shade range. Like there was this one product called Asepsia, and they literally, I think they had like 4 shades.
Mhm.
And when I would go to buy it, because that was the first like makeup product I ever owned. And when I went to go buy it, I think I got like the darkest shade. I think it was like literally 4 shades, and I had the darkest one, and it still wasn't even like close to my shade. So I kind of wish that I had pictures from back then when I would use that, just so I could see like oh my god, no, like I'm pretty sure I had like a white cast on me, and I
I was
thought
gonna
that
say.
that was that was like, my shade color, but that's cuz like there was no range.
Mhm.
And so now it's insane to see like makeup brands come out with like 50 plus shades, and it's just really cool. But like growing up, we definitely didn't have that. And so because of that lack, it does make you question like, I mean, it makes you question everything, your appearance. It makes you feel like less than, it makes you feel ugly. Like
Mhm.
it's just insane. I was actually thinking about how like, because I was like writing down a list here of like people who I remember from my childhood that I would look up to, and I kind of wrote down a couple of people. And as I was going, right, I was like thinking like, oh, okay, so we had Selena Gomez,
Mhm.
um, we had Selena Quintanilla, we
Mhm.
had Christina Milan, like things like that, right? Well, actually, I don't think Christina Milan was Mexican, but she was POC, and she was one person that I clinged on to.
Mhm.
But I was just like writing these people down, right? Also, Raven Simone. And as I was writing these, I was like, oh, you know what? I thought I had less than this, but like if you think about it, like that's 4 people I can think of in comparison to like this overload of representation for other girls. But I was here thinking like, oh, maybe I'm like overreacting, because look, at I do have some representation, but I like, come on, it was like maybe one movie out of like the 100 plus movies that I saw,
Mhm.
sort of thing.
And
So
again, are any of the 4 people, are they indigenous Mexican like you?
yeah, no, like Selena Gomez. I mean, she is Mexican, and she was representation for a lot of girls, and I love that. I mean,
Mhm.
I felt represented by her too,
Oh,
because
yeah.
when I found out she was Mexican American, I was like, "Oh my god, look, like we have something in
POC.
common." Yeah.
Mhm.
And so I was like, I love Selena Gomez so much, but I mean, she doesn't make me feel like fully represented, because she doesn't look like me.
'Cause
But
she's light skinned.
yeah.
Mhm.
And then I mean Raven Simone, I mean she's not
She's black.
Mexican,
Yeah.
but but like when I saw her, I was like, wow, like a beautiful brown black woman, like on screen, like that's insane. Like I could kind of see myself in her. And so I mean there were people that did make me feel represented growing up, but I never really felt fully represented. Also I remember there was this one movie, I don't know if you ever saw it, it's called Life Size with Tyra Banks.
I do remember Life Size.
I loved Life Size because Tyra was in there, and like she was, a POC character that
Mhm.
I like looked up to, and I would watch it all the time because I'm like, anyone that looks like me, I want to see it.
Also with Life Size, she was playing a Barbie, and so it was really
Yeah.
cool to see a Barbie who, like, be darker complexion. And so
Mhm.
I think I also looked up to her in that movie, and that's why.
Mhm.
But a lot of the characters that I think both you and I looked up to were African American because we didn't have the proper representation.
Yeah. And so we just
Which
cling on to whoever we could somewhat feel represented by.
the Cheetah Girl movies, I lived by those movies forever. That was
Mhm.
my representation.
Yeah. Actually, that was like ahead of its time because most of the cast was like POC.
Mhm.
Other than, or I think even Dorinda was supposed to be Mexican, but I don't know if
Sabrina?
she. Yeah.
Yeah, she is not anything.
Okay.
I don't think so. It doesn't say so.
hmm Okay. Well, I
But
mean, most of the cast.
I will say in the third Cheetah Girls movie,
Uh-huh. Oh.
Cheetah Girls One World, they went to like it was a full-on Bollywood thing. And so that was like that movie I really, really clung on to because that was POC,
Yes.
Bollywood. It was like the movie that encompassed my life
hmm
as much as I saw it fit. Because it
Yeah.
wasn't Bollywood movies where people were light skinned, right? You have Raven
hmm
Simone, you have Chanel,
hmm
like Dorinda, all of them. I mean, Dorinda was light skinned, but what was
Yeah.
Adrian Bailon's character's name?
Chachi.
Yeah. Oh, I hit my thing. Um, but even her, like, they were POC, and so
hmm
seeing them in a Bollywood setting was more impactful to me than Bollywood movies themselves.
Yes. Yeah, no. I'm the same way. Like if you ask me to name a character from some sort of Mexican media growing up, I could not name one at all that made me feel represented at
Mm-hmm.
all. And I watched a lot of that. Like I watched Rebelde, I watched Alegrías y Rebujos. Like there's just so many shows that I remember watching and zero representation for the darker complexion Mexicans.
Okay, this is going way back to when I was like little.
Uh-huh.
I clung on to Dora.
Did you?
I clung on to Dora was my favorite show. I wanted to be her so badly because she was brown.
Yeah.
She was a literal little brown girl. And I was like,
hmm
me. That's me. I had short hair and everything. I was like, me. I am Dora. My family used to call me Dora.
You're like, yo
Like
soy Dora.
I really was like, yo soy Dora. Like I was ready to be Dora.
Yeah.
I wanted backpack. I wanted map. I wanted my boots. Like, yeah, Dora. That
I
was
love that for
my
you.
childhood representation.
Yeah. No, Dora was an icon. She
Were,
walked so that a lot of other could run.
were you too old for Dora?
No, I still watch Dora. Um, hmm. To be honest, I don't know if I watched Dora.
Or the
I
little ones
know
watch Dora?
Brenda was obsessed with Dora, and I watched it through her, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if I watched Dora. I can't remember that far back, to be
Mm-hmm.
honest. I lived through like the Hey Arnold and did you live through Hey Arnold?
I watched Hey Arnold, yeah.
Okay, good. We can be friends then.
I did watch the other ones, but like I was little. I was
hmm
little. So like Dora was it for me.
Yeah.
I was like
Um the
Dora.
Dora.
Oh my God. It was the Chocolate song where they made hot chocolate with the grandma. I used to sing that song religiously.
Oh my gosh. Can you sing it? I don't remember it.
Bate, bate, chocolate, bate,
Okay,
bate,
Latina Queen, we
chocolate.
see we see you.
Add me to the list.
You're an honorary member.
Thank you, thank you.
But yeah, no, to add to that, like I would cling on to anyone that was like brown skinned. So, even like once I was older, like I feel like I still there was a huge lack of representation, but when Never Have I Ever came out, Davy,
When
I
was that?
clung on to
2020?
her. Was it? Was that like not that long ago?
I'm pretty sure it was 2020.
Let's see.
Pretty sure it was 2020. I think it was more recent than we think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 2020. It came out in 2020. That's insane. I mean, think about that. I was born 1996. Till 2020, there was a girl that I somewhat felt,
When you're 24.
No, I was 24. That's when I was like, wow. And I feel like for a little bit there, we started to get a lot of like representation because, well, for
Finally.
the brown, yeah, for the POC community. Because I mean, the next person that I felt like I could see myself in was Isabella in Encanto. Like
Mm-hmm.
that was the first time I ever saw like a beautiful like dark brown woman like be the main character, and I was watching that movie and I was so mesmerized. And then I could see like older me, and I could see like little me and one of the little girls that was on there. Maybe we'll pop up a little picture here if you guys
Yeah.
want to see that on
Mm-hmm.
YouTube. But yeah, like I saw her and I was like, oh my god, that is me when I was little. And I think if like little me was here, she would cry. And I kind of probably cried a little for
You
myself.
you should have been Isabella for
I should
Halloween.
have. I really should have. Maybe next
Next
year.
year, purple dress.
Yeah, I'll be Isabella.
Yeah. Do the
But
hair have flowers everywhere?
mhm. And then I mean for her, like they are Latina, but I mean she's Colombian, so
Mm-hmm.
there's always like that little lack. And sometimes I think to myself, like, am I asking for too much to like get exact representation, like,
Absolutely
Mexican, like,
not. Crystal,
yeah.
Mexico's such a big country. Your guys' the population is humongous. Like you're
Yeah.
not asking for a lot at all.
Yeah. But I mean, sometimes I feel a little guilty because I'm like, I mean, the representation is out there for other girls, and I'm happy to see it. Like
Mm-hmm.
when I went to go watch Doctor Strange and America Chavez walked on screen, Xochitl Gomez, I looked at her and I was mesmerized. One, because she was Mexican. Two, she spoke Spanish on the movie.
The first lines of that movie was Spanish.
Yes.
Let's go.
Yeah, we love that. And then one, like I did not look at Soshi and was like, "Oh my god, that's me." I looked at her and I was like, "Oh my god, that's my childhood best friend.
Mm-hmm.
Look at that. Like that's her." And I was so happy. Like I literally could not stop thinking about that. Like that's my best friend. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's like my god, no. It was so cool to even see that. So, yeah, I'm rooting for everyone's representation, not just my own. And I mean, hey, I'm old now. I am gonna survive without this representation, but like I want the little boys and little girls to like be able to see themselves on screen and not go through their entire life thinking less of themselves just because they don't see that.
Mm-hmm. Most definitely. It's just everyone deserves to have something to look up to.
Mm-hmm.
And when obviously again, we're old. So like it's still nice to see.
Oh yeah.
It still makes me cry sometimes.
Oh yeah. Let's get into your favorite
my
person.
my one true me. We're talking about me. And the
Yes.
reason I say me is because quite literally everyone in my life who has watched this show has at one point told me, Nyla, this is you.
Mm-hmm.
Within watching the first episode, everyone was like, is this just about your life? Like, is that you? When did you start? I had my uncle. He looked at me. He was like, when did you start acting? And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, I was confused. I didn't even think about it. He's like, when did you start acting? And I was like, huh? And he's like, Miss Marvel. And I was like, oh, yeah, should have started acting. But
Yeah.
here she is.
Oh,
Here's my
we
little
love
me.
her.
My little me.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about Miss Marvel. And Miss Marvel is a Disney Plus Marvel show. Obviously, her name's Miss Marvel. And how do I describe her? She is a Muslim Pakistani American who was born and raised in Jersey. Two parents, a brother. I always wanted an older brother, which is really weird that she has an older brother because I was like, I've
Mm-hmm.
always wanted an older brother. But okay. I am dressed similar to her today. I have on my Miss Marvel shirt. I have two braids in because she braids her hair. I have on my necklace that has my name in Arabic, which she also has a necklace that has her name in Arabic. And I did have this way before that show even came out. And then I have a bunch of rings on because she wears a lot of rings. So yeah, I will never forget how I felt watching that first episode. I cried within the first episode. I'm a crier. I should I should know. I'm a crier.
She's
I
an empath.
cry. Thank you. I'm Crystal puts it that way. I like to think I am, but also don't want to give myself too much credit there. I just cry. And
Mm-hmm.
so within the first episode, there were so many different instances where I'm like, oh, that has happened to me. That
Mm-hmm.
I have experienced that. Like culturally, seeing my culture, understanding
Mm-hmm.
everything they were saying without them even having like I don't know, were there subtitles?
Yeah, for like
There were
whenever
subtitles.
they. Mm-hmm.
Mhm. And so But a lot of the things when they were doing the prayers or things like that in Arabic, and they don't have an exact translation, but I knew what prayers they were doing. And it was
Mhm.
just having that type of representation in a show meant the world to me, and it
Mhm.
meant the world to me, especially when my little cousin came to me and told me how much it meant to them. Because I
Mm.
was just like, "This is what I want. I didn't get this. I didn't
Mhm.
have this growing up. I didn't have representation. I didn't have that person that was like, 'Oh, I can relate to this character. People are watching characters who are me.'" Like, I didn't have that until I was 22.
Mhm.
And so having my little cousin have that, I'm like, at least, they have someone to look up to
Yeah.
while they're growing up, because I didn't have it, and I wish I did. I really do wish I did, and I'm grateful that I
Mhm.
have it now. I'm
Yes.
so grateful that I have it now. I love her. I love the show. I love everything about it. And I'm happy that I have it now, but it makes me happier to see little kids growing up with it. And oh my God, there's I have a family member in Canada, and they had a baby, and so the baby just turned 1, and they sent me a picture of her with a little Miss Marvel plushie, and that
Oh.
literally almost brought tears to my eyes because I was like, this is a baby. This
Yeah.
baby is
She's
gonna
gonna
grow
grow
up with
up with that.
representation.
Yeah.
And so yeah, that show means more than anything to me. Out of all the shows that has ever come out, this is the only show that I felt true representation in.
Yeah.
At the age of 22 years old, I finally felt that representation. And Crystal, I really hope you get it one day. Like, I
Yeah.
really hope that you get to feel what I felt, because it's unreal.
Yeah. No, I hope so too. But I mean, I can confirm watching Miss Marvel, I felt like I was watching your life. Like I was like, okay, let me get to know Nyla better. It turns on Miss Marvel. And Marvel needs to cut you a check for that.
I just, you know what? Hey, Marvel, if in future projects, you need another actress to play a variant of Kamala Khan. Uh, my name is Nayla Fayaz. I look pretty young. I could do it. Hit me up.
Yes.
Links in bio.
I can confirm she would be great for the part.
I want to be Iman Vellani, the girl who plays Miss Marvel. I want to be her best friend so badly because I feel like we're just the same person.
No, she's so cool. I feel like you guys are the same person too. I was
I
watching
mean,
interviews of her and I was like, yeah, Nyla.
someone sent me an interview that she was doing where she was on the red carpet and she was talking about all the like actors she met,
Hmm.
and someone sent it to me and was like, "Nyla, this is exactly how you talk." And I was like,
No, literally. I saw this one interview where she was talking. I think about, I can't remember honestly what the interview was about, but the way that she talked, I was like, oh, it's the same voice.
she's also very expressive with her hands, and I'm also very
Hmm.
expressive with my hands.
Yeah. Also, she's like a huge Marvel fan. You're a huge
Yeah.
Marvel fan.
Like, okay, aside from the representation of culture, I will say she is Pakistani, and so she is light-skinned,
Hmm.
but there were dark-skinned people in that show, and also there were Bollywood actors who don't sorry, this is I'm, like, going off track, but there are Bollywood actors in that show who don't get big parts in Bollywood because they're Muslim.
And they got
Because they're
it.
Muslim, and they're in Hollywood. They're in Hollywood, baby.
Ooh.
Oh my God, yeah. But she is a Marvel fan. I know that doesn't have to do with like skin color representation or cultural representation. Actually, you know what? That is culture. That is
Hmm.
cultural representation,
It is.
because you never see fans.
Mm-mm.
Like, you don't see that aspect of like the nerdiness, the nerd culture, like the fan culture. And
Done
I
in a good way.
yes, done in a not creepy, like weird way.
Hmm.
Done in just like a
Yeah.
casual girl who really likes
Also,
Marvel.
also the fact that it was a girl who was like that, because normally, I mean, when it's a girl character, she's like into beauty, all girly things, but like she's not, and that's really
Mm-mm.
cool as well.
She's like chilling. She's
Hmm.
chilling.
It's
She
just
was
her.
so she was so nerdy. Like, she was like, "Bruno, help me figure out my powers and stuff like that." And I'm like, "Yeah, go figure out your powers. Go be you." Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, so that cultural representation, to see not only someone who is literally almost the same exact culture as me, same religion I grew up with, um, everything everything down to a T. And on top of that, her wall is covered in posters. And although my wall's not covered in posters, that's because you guys don't see the side that's
The
covered
other
in
side.
posters. Seeing that representation also just really, really icing on the cake. Icing on the cake. I was like, this is what I needed.
Yeah. No, I love that for you. That's
Yeah.
awesome that you got to see that. Better
Thank
late than
you.
never.
Yeah. And I mean, not only with her, you mentioned Never Have I
Mm-hmm.
Ever, Davy, another
Mm-hmm.
character, and she's darker in skin, so I feel like
Mm-hmm.
physically represented in that
Mm-hmm.
show. Crystal did point out that Davy was a debater, and like I also was a debater, so maybe there are some little
Similarities.
similarities. But
Yeah.
even that show, the culture in that show, even though they are a different religion, it still meant so much to me to
Mm-hmm.
see so many brown women
Mm-hmm.
on TV. And
Yes.
then also my third show, this is all from this year,
Mm-hmm.
Bridgerton season 2.
Oh, yeah.
And this one's the biggest one for me because Simone Ashley, who plays Kate Sharma on
Mm-hmm.
Bridgerton season 2, she is very dark in complexion, like very dark in complexion. And
I need to go see that.
she like Bollywood would never accept someone who's that dark in complexion.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's not very common to see someone that dark in complexion. And so for me to see her in a role where she's quite literally the main character and her family too, her sister and everything, like that also, just I felt represented still.
Mm-hmm.
And so those are like the three characters that like really, really, and I mean, it's sad again that I'm now 23 and now have these characters, but I'm
Yeah.
still so grateful that I have them. And it,
Yeah.
it took long enough.
Yes. And you know what? Now you have me wanting to go watch Bridgerton. I have to watch that because I will feel so beautiful watching Simone Ashley on screen.
Yeah. My three, Simone Ashley, Maitri Ramakrishnan, and Iman Vellani. Like that,
Yes.
those are if I've never, this is another thing. You know how people like grow up with idols?
Mm-hmm.
Like they look up to people.
Mm-hmm.
I've never really looked up to celebrities.
Mm-hmm. Me
Like I've never
neither.
really had a celebrity to look up to.
Yeah.
Selena Gomez, honestly, Selena Gomez was one that I did look up to, I guess. But
Mm-hmm.
like there weren't many celebrities to look up to. These three though, like now that they're in my life, like they're the
Now
three
you
that I
look up
would
to them.
look up to. And it's not even look up to them personality wise, it's just the fact that they're my representation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can finally see yourself within someone on screen.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes a long way. Like, honestly, I've seen like people complain about, people hoping that they get the representation, but I feel like unless you lacked in it, then you wouldn't understand like why it's so important to get that representation.
Mm-hmm.
Some other like notable shows, I guess, that I felt represented in. Well, not really a show, it's a movie. Coco is a
Mm-hmm.
movie, and that one I felt culturally represented with. Even when Turning Red came out, Priya's character, I
That's
thought I was
voiced
like,
by Maitri Ramakrishna.
is it?
That's
Oh my
Devi, yeah.
god, I did not know that. It's so
Mm-hmm.
cool.
Yeah.
When worlds collide. Yeah, no, that's so cool. I saw Priya, and obviously, even though we're not from, she's Indian, right?
I think so, yeah. Her name's
Even
Priya,
though,
so
yeah, even though we're not from the same place, I'm Mexican, she's Indian, but I still saw me and her.
I actually really see you and her.
Yeah, I actually Turning Red. I feel like it's me and all my sisters, like the friend group. It's like what's her name is Ceci. It's so Ceci. Let's see. Let me pull it up.
Yeah, you got to look up the characters because I need to know their names. But you're definitely Priya because first of all, the hair,
Yeah, no, the hair.
the
She has
glasses,
she has a watch, and I always wear my Apple Watch.
the
I
way
just need
she
to get like a
dresses.
yellow outfit. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, one character that I felt attached to growing up was Zendaya on Shake It Up, because she was she was one of the first like POC characters that we got to see as a
Mm-hmm.
main character. Like, I think honestly, like outside of Zendaya, it was just Raven Simone, but then it was like years in between before we got anything, right? Like there was no one else. I can't think of
Zendaya,
them.
Raven, again, Selena Gomez technically because
Yeah. But then other than that, it was like right? Like I can't even.
London Tipton.
My icon. I
Hmm.
loved her. We love London.
That's see, I honestly like it was any POC.
Yeah.
As long as they weren't white, I would attach to them. Because even London, and I like, I really liked Maddie's character because she was like the nerd and like the like
Me
studious one
too.
or whatever.
Yeah.
But like the fact that London was Asian, I was like, London Tipton.
Yeah.
And then what's the Wendy Wu Homecoming Warrior? That
Oh my God.
movie
Yeah.
also latched onto that movie. And
Yeah.
like even like yeah, for me it was also Asian representation. It also was a form of representation for me, even though not Asian. Well,
No,
I mean,
same.
technically India's in Asia, so but like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean.
Yeah. No, like honestly, Brenda Song, amazing. I loved her so much. I mean, she was in so much of our like movies and shows that we grew up with. I mean, she wasn't Stuck in the Suburbs. She had her own Wendy Wu. She was in like a Christmas movie as well that was on Disney Channel, but I can't remember the name of it. I don't know if you ever saw it.
Oh, yeah.
It was
I
like a
can't
snow
remember.
machine or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, no, she was an icon. I love her. She was like one of my top favorite Disney Channel stars that I grew up with. But let's go ahead and shift the conversation over to why representation matters and kind of how we felt growing up and, you know, seeing that lack of representation for us. Because while there were certain aspects of us that did feel represented, like seeing POC characters, but I feel like even though they were POC, we still didn't have like that darker complexion represented on screen.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of want to let you talk first and see how you felt.
I the only thing I can really think of is when I was in school, when I was in
Mm-hmm.
elementary school, I got bullied a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I got bullied a lot for many different things, and we discussed this in a couple of like this is something that's going to come up a lot because it was
Mm-hmm.
a big part of my childhood. But I got bullied for my skin color. I got bullied for my hair. I got bullied for everything that was very cultural about me, like things that
Mm-hmm.
are just inherited because of my culture. I got made
Mm-hmm.
fun of for those things, and I think for me, why representation matters is because if there was representation, if there were people who look like me on TV or like not even just look like me, but who were similar to me, or the culture was better represented instead of just the stereotypes,
Mm-hmm.
then I think maybe people wouldn't have made fun of me.
Mm-hmm.
I think I would have been less made fun of because it would have been more
Mm-hmm.
normal for others to see people who are similar, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. It's kind of like they almost have maybe like a culture shock, but they like respond to it negatively. And
Hmm.
so it just like for you, because you're so young, I mean, those words stay with you for so long, but for them, it's just words, you know?
Hmm.
But yeah, no, similar to you growing up, it's about to get a little deep
Hmm.
and uncomfortable. But
No,
yeah, no,
no
growing up,
uncomfortable,
like,
comfortable space.
yes.
It's just me. It's just you and me,
Really,
Crystal. No one's listening.
it's just me and you. No one's listening. No one's listening except for the other 100 people who are listening.
No one's listening. It's just you and me. Look at me.
True, true,
Look at me.
true. Okay, close my eyes. It's just me in my head. Um, no, so yeah, like growing up, I actually like really hated my skin color. Like I did not start loving the color of my skin until like a couple years ago, like maybe 2 or 3 years ago. I started to love it. I worked on loving my skin, but it was so hard to like be able to do so. And that's because growing up, I mean, we never had that representation of like a darker complexion. You know, we'd always see like pretty blonde girls on screen, and it even went as far as to like whenever me and my friends would play and we would be like, let's be Brad's dolls, I would always be like, oh, dibs on Chloe, dibs on Angel. I would never be Sasha
Hmm.
because I like had a hatred towards my skin color. So like I always wanted to be white.
Hmm.
That makes sense. Like it's not that I hated it's like when it comes to your insecurities, it's not like you hate it on other people. It's just you hate it on yourself.
Yeah.
And so it was almost me like denying that I was dark.
Hmm.
So it's like I want to be Chloe, and I never wanted like the darker character. And so for so long, like I really hated like being brown, especially because I did get bullied. I mean, I got bullied when I was 5 for the
Hmm.
color of my skin, and it was something that like I felt I honestly I was never really aware of the color of my skin until it was pointed out. And then I started to be like, oh, yeah, you know what? Maybe I am less than because no one looks like me like on screen. And whenever there is someone that looks like me on screen, they're a servant, they're a maid, they're like, a
Stereotyped.
thief, a robber, yeah, stereotyped. And so it took me so long. And there was actually, okay, so I like bawled my eyes out. There's this video. I can't remember who posted it. Maybe it may have been like Jubilee or like one of those channels. And they asked a bunch of kids um to pick between like a light skinned doll and a dark skinned doll. And everyone, even the little kids, like black kids, brown kids, like they picked the white dolls. And they were asked like, why did you pick them? And they said because they're pretty. And then they would ask like, well, why didn't you pick the darker doll? And they'd be like, oh, because she's ugly. And then they would ask them questions like, um which one is the nice doll? They would all pick like the white doll.
Mm-hmm.
It said that the black doll looked mean
Mm-hmm.
and they didn't want to pick her. And I literally cried and cried watching that video because I was like, that's me as a little kid. That's the same like mind that I had. And so that's why I think representation matters so much because like me growing up, I didn't have that representation. So it was easier for me to think that I was less than, that I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't anything. Now as an adult, we're obviously like slowly starting to get that representation, but like I already like went years hating myself. Like had I maybe had some representation earlier on, maybe I would have like loved myself earlier on, but it took so long until like I struggled and now I don't want little kids to struggle because like I know that pain and I don't ever want anyone else to go through it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's a little heavy. Sorry.
No, thank you for opening up because do you ever suppress things?
For so long, man. That.
I so when you asked me the question originally, it's suppressed. It's so suppressed. I
It's like
hated,
hard to like admit to it.
yeah, I hated my skin tone too. I really did.
Mhm.
And the thing is I couldn't really talk about it at home because my dad is darker than me and
Mhm.
I get my skin tone from him. My mom's
Mhm.
lighter than me. And so I never wanted to talk about it in the house because then my dad would be like, "What are you talking about?" Like my dad was always like, "Be proud. Like be proud of who you are. Be proud of your skin color. Like don't let what
Mhm.
other people like says affect you or whatever."
Yeah.
Um but yeah, I hated my skin color to the point it was, and again, it still goes back to the bullying and it comes from the like microaggressions of people being like, "Oh, you should probably sit in the shade, like don't sit in the sun,"
Yeah.
or things like that, or like, "Oh, why are you so dark?" Like, what do you mean why am I so dark? Like,
Yeah. I'm sorry.
um
Let me turn down a couple shades.
yeah, and like I think when like lights go out in a classroom,
Oh
I
yeah.
did get the Nyla, we can't see you.
Oh my God. I
Yeah,
would fear every day that that would happen to me.
it had happened. I had it happen to me. I was
Hmm.
very young, so I didn't understand.
Hmm.
And I think I was the darkest person in the room.
And you
Uh,
laugh because
yeah.
you don't want to be like a buzzkill.
Hmm. And it's like people would even be like, "Oh, your teeth are so white because you're so dark,"
Yeah.
and I'm like, microaggressions, right? And so
Hmm.
for a long time, I already hate the beach just because I don't like sand. um, but I would be scared to go on vacation and go into the ocean or go and sit on a beach or go anywhere where the sun was because I didn't want to get darker. Like
Hmm.
for so many years, my one goal was just don't get darker. Like summer comes around and I'm like, I can't get darker. I can't get
I had the
darker.
same goal.
And it's just like, I don't know. It hurt. It hurt so bad because when I did get darker, people would point out that I got darker. And it's just like,
Hmm.
why does any of that matter?
Yeah.
Why, like, what does that have to do with the other person who's saying these microaggressions towards you?
Yeah.
And it just makes, and like you said, it's not like because I hated my skin color, I would say, "Oh my God, Crystal, you're ugly because you're dark too." No, you're
Yeah.
beautiful even if I hate my skin tone.
Yeah.
I look at other women of color and I'm like, they are so beautiful, but internally hate my skin tone, hate my skin
Hmm.
color.
Yeah. I think that's why it's also so hard to admit to it because you don't want it to come across that way. Like, oh, I hate my skin tone. That means I hate everyone that has the same skin tone as me. No, it's
Mhm.
just like it's an internal struggle and it's just something that's like always in the back of your head because even if I do say that I love my skin color now, like those thoughts will always sit in the back of my head and they will
Mhm.
always cross my mind. And I mean, kind of going back to like when you said about you telling your parents, or I mean that you couldn't tell your parents because they wouldn't really understand it. Like I felt the same exact way and it just like it feels good to know that there's someone else that had the same exact struggle because like yeah, I bottled that up for so long and whenever I would tell someone, they would like I mean, they obviously be like, "Well, your skin color is so beautiful. Like I wish I had your skin color." I'm like,
Mm.
"No. No, you
That
don't."
that statement
Yeah.
that statement has haunted me because I have a cousin who said that to me and
Mhm.
said that to me at a very young age. I because and it just stuck. It
Yeah.
stuck my entire life. It sticks till this day. I still think about what she said
Mhm.
because you like growing up being dark, you don't wish you were dark.
No.
The struggles that we had growing up, not being able to talk about being bullied about it, not being able to discuss how harmful it was internally, and it just all of the struggles that came with being of darker skin, a lot of people just could not understand.
Yeah. No. They would just say, well, don't feel that way because, you're beautiful. And it's like, well, yeah, I could try, but it's not going to like work because those thoughts are always going to be there. And I mean, someone who loves me could tell me that I'm beautiful, that I have beautiful skin color, but outside of us, society doesn't think so. And you
Mhm.
can't prove me wrong because
Yeah.
it's obvious. I mean, in the media, there's like lack of representation. We do get some POC representation, but again, there's like these layers of when you're accepted in. And so they're always going to accept the lighter skin toned of the POC. They're never really going to, aim for us to get that representation. And even in like social media, like I've recently been like trying to like reach out to brands and stuff and I keep seeing all of these videos of black creators or POC creators talking about how messed up even just the social media like market is and how
Mhm.
like they will pay POC creators much less than like white creators and they always try to like lowball you or like require more of you just to like pay you like a small amount compared to what they're paying other people. And so just like things like that constantly in my life
Mhm.
is what keeps reminding me of like that same feeling where I feel like less. And
Mhm.
it's like it's hard to just be like whatever it doesn't matter because I mean it kind of does matter. I mean it's hard to deny that at the end of the day society's always gonna like think a little bit less of me just because of my skin tone like
Mhm.
and I can't help it but it's the truth.
Shout out
Sucks.
colonialism.
Yeah. But
Shout out Eurocentric beauty standards.
mhm.
It's all these
Uh,
things, right?
yeah.
You mentioned foundation shade ranges
Oh yeah.
and how growing up we had not I for a very long time, and I actually what's funny is to this day, I
Mhm.
don't wear foundation.
Yeah, me either, really. Like, I feel like I think I finally find a shade that matches me, but then it oxidizes and it looks like a gray tint. I'm like, uh, I'm gonna. I don't know. I don't even know how to like explain it. Like, there's just nothing that actually matches my skin tone.
There I've never found a shade. Oh, I Fenty. Fenty was the one brand that I found that did match my shade range.
Oh, really?
Fenty
Yay.
Fenty had one, and I remember when Fenty came out, and I was like, "Man, Rihanna really did that for the brown girls."
Mm-hmm.
But before that, I could never find a foundation that fit me. I was
Mm-hmm.
always for a very long time, I was the darkest shade in a range.
Oh, really?
Me. Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm thinking when I was in high school in the Maybelline Fit Me,
Mm-hmm.
I was the darkest shade in the range.
Oh,
Like it's insane. I shouldn't
yeah.
be the darkest shade in the range,
No, I'm
but I
like
was.
shocked because I'm like, but you're I mean, you do have a darker complexion, but you're not like the darkest complexion out
There
there.
are many
So,
people who are way darker than me who are less represented. It's
yeah.
insane. And so for a very long time, I just did not wear foundation. I still to this day, even though I have options now,
Mhm.
like you said, a lot of foundations either oxidize or the undertones are just not my undertone. Like I have never
Mhm.
ever found a foundation that has fit me. And so I just
Mhm.
concealer all the way.
Yeah. Oh my God. For me, so like I was kind of the same where like I never really found foundation that matched me. I think I stuck to like BB cream a lot because it was like the closest I could get to finding something that matched. Um, but also another thing that I felt like um could have been better is like blood blush shade ranges. Like
Yeah.
I felt like I would always like put blush on and you couldn't even see it.
Mhm. I have a funny story. When my little cousin was very little, she was like maybe I don't know, like 6, 5, 6.
Uh-huh.
She was really into makeup and she wanted to put like makeup on me. And
Mm-hmm.
so she would go through my makeup and try and put makeup on me. And I had one Milani blush that
Uh-huh.
barely it never showed up.
Mm-hmm.
My little cousin took the brush, went and
Dipped
like
it.
patted it on my face, and she goes, "I can't see anything." And she just kept packing on more.
She's like, I'm gonna get you this
Yeah,
blush color.
she was like, "It's not working." I was like, "Bro, stop.
Yeah.
Don't." And it was like it took forever. It was a very
Yeah.
thick layer of
Yeah.
blush to
And you
finally
still
show up
couldn't
on
see
me.
it.
Until Rare Beauty's liquid blushes. I know Glossier has liquid blushes, and
Mm-hmm.
I never used Glossier, but until for me, Rare Beauty
Mm-hmm.
came out with their liquid blushes, and then that's when I was finally like, wow, blush can show up on me.
Yeah. That's like a game changer when you can actually find things that look good. Also, lip colors, like that's a whole different story. Cause I mean it all comes down to like your skin tone. But like
Mhm.
sometimes for a really long time I would like put on lip shades and they would always have like a very like ultra nude color that was not nude for me. It was
Mhm.
like I don't even know, like was it like yellow tinted or something? Like it did not look good. It did not
Mhm.
complement my skin color. But
But
now,
you found your lipsticks.
yes, now there's a bunch of like lipstick shades that I feel like actually look good on my skin tone and I have found nude color lipsticks and I'm like, yes, finally. Slowly but surely we're getting there.
No, but the lipsticks that you have do look really good. Like
Thank you.
I'm glad you found your shades because you
Thank
rock
you.
them well. Oh, bronzer.
Bronzer, that's another one
Couldn't
too.
couldn't couldn't find a bronzer for a very, very long time.
Yeah. Not
I could
one that would
not.
like work as a bronzer.
Mhm.
It looked like just like your skin
Muddy
tone. Hmm. Like,
or like my skin tone, yeah.
yeah.
So it's funny how like with makeup we never really had shades. And
Hmm.
so I think a lot of the times, at least culturally, instead of being like, "Oh, let me extend like shade ranges and stuff like that," they would be like, "Just use whitening cream."
Yeah. It's like let's fix an issue that isn't an issue.
Yeah. They're
That's
like,
so true.
"Get lighter so you can fit the foundation shades."
Yeah. But the way that like people accept it though as well because I had like I always see like people on Facebook, people we know, aunts, not uncles. My uncles don't really use makeup. I mean, if they want to, they can.
Your
But
aunts.
yeah, my aunts or like just people, their friends, people
Mhm.
I just saw all the time. And they would basically, I mean, to me, it seemed like they would deny their skin tone because they will sometimes, I mean, even with like the very minimal amount of shade range, they still go for a lighter skin tone because they don't want to like look too dark, I guess. And so
Mhm.
that also just kind of makes me feel like sad that I don't know, there's our elders still really think that way because they obviously also never ever had that representation. They didn't have the wide variety of shade ranges.
Mhm.
And so there's almost like a denial for them to admit that they do need the darkest shade, even though they're like, they're not, they just don't have the options. I mean,
Mhm.
but it's like, I don't know. Did you ever see anything like that? Like
Yeah.
where,
I mean, back home in Fiji, a lot of my relatives when they ask for makeup,
Mhm.
because they ask like us to send them makeup every once in a while or whatever.
Mhm.
And when we send makeup, they're asking for shades that are not their shades at all. And I think, like you said, it's this denial thing. It's
Mhm.
this, they're like, oh, we're not actually that dark, or they just don't want to present themselves as dark.
Mhm.
And another thing culturally like, for personally for my culture, when people, a lot of people are arranged in marriage,
Mhm.
and in arranged marriages, um the boy's parents usually don't want the boy to marry someone who's dark.
Mhm.
They want
For the
someone
kids.
who's fair. They want someone who's light skinned. Like, they want someone who's white, essentially. And
Yeah.
so they will say no to marriage proposals just because a girl is dark.
Oh my god. Do you think it has to do with like they don't want their kids to come out like dark as well? So they like try to
Yeah, I think it's just like the whole beauty standard thing.
Mhm.
Like, they don't think a girl who's dark is beautiful.
Yeah.
I think
Cuz
that's where it starts.
yeah. Yeah, because I know that like in Mexican culture, I mean there's a lot of racism in Mexico and Mexicans just don't want to admit to it. And
Hmm.
it's a lot of the elders. I feel like a lot of the newer generations are obviously more aware of it, but
Hmm.
elders they just I guess they refuse to change with the times. But I mean, you'll hear messed up things from them, like when someone has a kid and if the baby is white, oh my
Hmm.
gosh, so precious, so beautiful. They love them, they admire them, they basically idolize them. But if you have a baby that's darker, they'll be like, oh, está curiosito, which is basically like, oh, it's interesting. That's what it
Hmm.
translates as. And it's like, I mean, come on, like
It's a baby.
it's a baby. Yeah, like why are you going to like I mean, you're already starting them off. Like they're going to grow up and they're going to hear those things. They're going to
Hmm.
hear don't go out into the sun, you're going to get darker. Don't go out and like play with your cousins, stay inside and wear this color, don't wear that color. Comb your hair, slick it back, straighten your hair. All of these things that they're going to like tell you and I don't know if they don't think that it is like what's the word? Like offensive or something.
Hmm.
They say it because they
Toxic,
think they're like,
essentially.
yeah, I think they
Hmm.
say it because they think they're doing you good by doing that, but
Hmm.
they're implementing those thoughts into your head for the
Hmm.
rest of your life. Like, oh yeah, I gotta make sure I straighten my hair, I gotta make sure I stay out of the sun, things like
Hmm.
that. Use this whitening cream, Yeah. And so I guess, I mean, this topic we could clearly talk about forever.
You know what? This topic is going to come up again because we haven't even started to talk about societal standards. Like,
Oh, no. Yeah.
haven't even touched that yet. This is just
Mhm.
this is a sneak peek, little preview.
Basically, basically.
Hmm.
So I kind of do want to just like end it off with the question.
Yeah, what's
So
up?
I was like, do you think media influences reality or do you think reality influences media?
Ooh. I mean, I think it goes both ways now.
You think so? Yeah.
I think before it was reality
Influences media.
influencing media, and now it's more media's influencing reality, but it's still
Yeah.
flip-flops now.
Yeah.
That's my thought on it.
I agree. I think
Yeah.
that's exactly how I was thinking about it, but that's insane though to think about how much of an impact media has on us and to think that it is that way because we started out like doing that. Like obviously there was always that racism, so the racism was like very prevalent in media. And
Hmm.
now, as we're changing, media is like slowly getting there, but because media is taking so slow, a lot
Hmm.
of like the older generations, especially, aren't like getting to where we are, like progressively. Like they're still stuck in their old ways because they still see that obviously in the media. But,
Yeah, it's kind of sad, like, especially knowing that people are getting brought up in these environments that
mm-hmm,
just undermine their beauty.
mm-hmm.
Dark skin is beautiful. I'm
Oh,
saying it
yeah.
here. I'm saying it now. Now that I've learned to love myself and love my skin color.
Mm-hmm.
Dark skin's beautiful. I wouldn't want it any other way.
Mm-mm. I feel like before I still would have wished to be like lighter,
Mhm.
but like now it's like I love my skin color, even though I still feel insecure about it. I love it and I would not change it. And I'm happy that I could say that now.
Still avoiding the sun.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Still avoiding the sun like 24/7, but
Still like, where's the shade? Still wearing darker colors.
yeah, no, because I mean, like right now, I mean, I'm not light, but I'm the lightest I've ever been because I mean, it's not even necessarily that I try to stay out of the sun because I'm learning to love the sun more now. I mean, I go for walks and I don't like try to hide my skin and things like that.
Mhm.
But I mean, when I was little, I was playing out in the sun, so I was like so much darker. And
Mhm.
I mean, if I was to go out and like spend all day in the sun, I would like tan like real fast. I mean, I could be out in the sun for like 2
One day.
seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It
It's like,
really doesn't take a lot.
uh-uh.
You go swimming once.
Oh my God. Water, sun together. Oh yeah. I'm
And
like
the
10 shades darker.
also, this is like a little fun thing, I guess. It's not really fun, but in the brown community, I don't know why they have this false pretense that if you put sunblock on, you don't get darker, and it's the funniest thing to me because
I
I'm
think
like,
it's the
that's not what it does.
opposite. I
Yeah,
think
that's
it's
not
the
what it does.
opposite. Like
It
whenever I
just
would put it on, I would get darker.
I think you get darker either way. Sunblock just stops you from peeling, like it stops you from
Mm-hmm.
burning. Yeah,
Which is one thing I'm very grateful for my dark skin is that I've
we
never
don't
really peeled.
we don't
I think
peel,
there was
baby.
only one time I peeled. I don't know what happened, but I mean, other than that, I've never peeled.
Our melanin just takes it in. That's
Yes.
why I love being brown. I have
Thank
never
you.
ever worried about having to get sunburns. So
Yeah. Yes.
white people can enjoy that because that's not my realm of things.
No, yeah, that's like something to be grateful for that I love my skin.
Yeah.
I love about my skin. Um,
And it's those little things that keep us going.
yeah. Yeah. And then now seeing that representation too, it's like I am beautiful every time you see it. We love to see it. But yeah,
Mhm.
no, this conversation definitely is not over. We have so many other topics that we're going to get into. So make sure you guys are subscribed. Turn on those post notifications. Follow us on Spotify. Follow us on Google Podcast, on Anchor. Follow us on our socials, which are always linked in the description.
I'm ending this one.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
go ahead, Carrie. Take over. Take it over.
Yeah, we appreciate everyone who's listened. Episode 6, man. 6? No. Oh shoot. Episode 7, man.
Are we on 7?
Mhm.
Oh my God. The last one before our Christmas episodes.
Oh yeah, okay. If you are listening, okay, starting next week, you're really gonna want to come to YouTube. Not
Mm-hmm.
really, but like for us,
Oh no,
please.
for really, really. They're going to want to see our Christmas sweaters and our Christmas decor. It's going to be a fun time.
Gonna be a fun time. The next couple episodes are gonna be a little more fun, a little less heavy. But yeah, we have some fun videos coming up.
Mm-hmm.
So be on the lookout every Wednesday, 6 a.m. Wait for the drop if you want. If not,
Whenever
8
you can.
a.m., 10 a.m., 8 p.m., the week after, a month later. Hi if you're from the future. But yeah, thank you guys for listening and supporting us. We really appreciate you. And sorry for the spam.
Yeah. Bye, bro chachos.